All right, this evening we're gonna go ahead and make lefse. I'm gonna make a double batch. Typically we do 5 pounds of lefse. I'm going to put the recipe in the notes below so you could go back and look at the recipe, see what you need, what tools, what ingredients you're gonna need for the lefse. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, before we get started, you gotta have a little bit of hot chocolate. This is from my Yokohama Starbucks cup. All right, so for each 5 gallons you're going to make, you're going to need one of these big pots, because you got to cut down the potatoes after you peel them, and you're going to put 5 pounds in each. So real easy for us to kind of split it up as we're doing a double batch today. I just use russet potatoes. You could get them from anywhere. There's no special brand or anything like that. Here we're using just 2 5-pound bags that I got from Meyer. So we're going to go ahead and get peeling those, and we'll check back in a minute. Okay? Okay, so usually what I do is we've got a double sink here. I put the potatoes in one side. So that's 5 pounds, as you can see on the bag. 5 pounds. Throw the potatoes in there. You don't have to wash them. I mean, you can if you want. You're peeling them, and you're going to rinse off the potato afterwards. So up to you. But usually I'll peel them, throw the peels in this side, and then it's a lot to throw down the garbage disposal, so I end up picking them out and I throw them in the trash. But make sure you clean your sinks before you do this. As you peel the potatoes, you're going to want to put them on and rinse them off. You're going to want to put them on a cutting board, because you're going to cut them into smaller pieces. Okay? Just small note, if you are doing a double batch, you want to make sure just peel one bag at a time and make sure that those potatoes get into the one single pot. You don't want to mix your weights, otherwise you're going to have to actually weigh them, and that's really not necessary. You can make that a lot easier. Okay? Thanks. Okay, so went ahead and I peeled the first 5 pounds. I actually had Jake come in and help me out, so appreciate that. So first 5 pounds are peeled. You can kind of see, that's, potato peels. You've probably all seen that before. But this is kind of how the potatoes are going to look after you've cleaned them, rinsed them off. And in a moment I'll show you how we cut them up, what size they are, and what you do with them next. Okay? Alright, so I'm cutting up these potatoes, and this is about the size you want to put them. You don't want them too big. You want them, maybe like quartered. And the reason for that is if it's too big, it's not going to cook evenly. The outside of the potato is going to be soft and the inside is going to be hard, and then when you go to make the dough, you're going to have a problem with that. So you just don't cut your fingers. You just start filling up that pan. Alright, we are back. So Jacob and I finished cutting up all the potatoes. You can see we've got them into 2 different pots, one for each batch, 5 pounds and 5 pounds. They're small, quartered if you will, or fifths. And then this is what you have left over. If you have an awesome garbage disposal, knock yourself out, or you can actually clean the potatoes before you peel them and use the potato skins for, you could cook them up or whatever. Lefse is enough work, so I'm not doing that today. So we are going to get started with our next step. Okay, so here we go. So turn your faucet on hot water. And what you want to do is take each one of the pots and we're going to fill them up. You want to be about a ½ inch over the water, over the potatoes themselves. Don't need to be any higher than that. We're going to cook these, boil the water if you will. You can cook it on medium-high is what I do it at. And just enough to kind of cover it. You want to make sure it's fully covered. And we're going to bring this back here. And see if I get lucky and find a tablespoon in here. Look at that. What do we got? That is a tablespoon, just wanted to make sure. Okay, so now I'm going to take salt, and I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of salt. And I don't know where the salt went. So hold tight, we'll be right back. Okay, so just standard salt. You're going to do 2 tablespoons, level tablespoons, for each 5 pounds. It's an easy step to forget, so you got to make sure you do this. A touch more, oops. I do like things salty because I am salty. Just kidding. No, humor for you kids. Okay, so then once it's in there, we're going to just stir that in. Mix that in real quick. We'll fire up the stove. And again, we're going to be on medium-high eventually, and we're going to cover this. You're going to knock it down to medium because once it starts boiling, you don't want it to boil over. Okay? And I'm going to do this other pot, and we'll get these boiling. All right, so we're back. So I finished up, you know, I put the water in here just over the top of the surface. We've got 2 tablespoons of salt in that batch. Same over here. This is the first one we showed you. I'm a dude, so this doesn't fit perfect. It's okay. You just want it basically covered, and you do want a little bit of venting because otherwise it's going to boil over. Okay, so it just goes on time because you have to stay. Okay, stop there. Okay, so basically we're going to get to a point where we can take a fork and stick it in these potatoes, and well, first of all, I can't even stick it in there because they're rock hard. They're not cooked. But eventually, it's just going to kind of start to fall apart. And once you have that consistency across all the potatoes, that's when you want to stop. Okay, so I'll show you once we get to that point. Okay, so we are about 14-15 minutes in, getting a nice boil on this pot. This is a turbo burner, so it does go a little bit quicker than the other one. So just like every 5 minutes, kind of go in and give it a little stir. These are not ready yet, but we're going to keep the top off at this point, just to keep on top of it and avoid a boil over. Okay, the other one is maybe a couple minutes behind. But as soon as we get these ready, I'll give you the total time it took to cook these. It's going to always vary by what you're doing, so we will be back in a moment. Okay, so Jake, when did we put these on? It was like 9:35.
Yeah.
So 9:35, it's almost 10:05, so you're talking about a half hour it's been cooking. Now, if you look down in here, my fork is easily going through the potatoes. So think about if you've made mashed potatoes before, very similar. This one isn't on the turbo burner. It's close, but not quite. There's some hard pieces in there. So we want to let those finish up. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to leave that one, turn this one off, put on my mitts. Okay, I've got a colander in the sink. And I'm going to go ahead and empty this. Okay. All right, so put that down, and then you want to try to drain all the water out. Get a nice facial while you're at it. Okay. All right. So then I'm going to just take the ricer and smash this down a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're not like smushing it totally. You're just trying to get some of the water out. Okay. Just like that. And so when we're done with that, shake it, and then we're going to go back into the pot. Get all those delicious potatoes out of there. All right. Okay, so you can put that there because you're going to have that other batch. You want to get that off the heat. This one, don't show my mom. We've got 2 flames going. We need to keep that on the turbo burner so we can finish this one up pretty quick. Actually, maybe about 4 or 5 more minutes on this one. Okay. Be right back. Okay, so what we've done, I put it in the colander, used the ricer to kind of smush it down, and I've transferred it into a mixing bowl. Okay, so from here, we are going to do exactly a half cup of half and half. Delicious. And then we're going to do 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. You could use vegetable oil, canola oil. Using vegetable oil. Okay. Then we're going to take this over to the mixer. Lock her in place. And so essentially, it's like you're making mashed potatoes right now. You could do this by hand, but I prefer to use technology because I'm an IT guy. It makes it a little bit easier. We'll stop it partway along the way, make sure we're clearing off our edges. You don't want to overmix it, but you can't have any lumps in the dough. So everything we're doing now is you do it on the first day. So you do this on the first day. Once we finish this, we're going to put it back in a pot, cover it, let it cool a little bit, and then it's going to go in the refrigerator overnight. And then we'll start day 2 tomorrow. Okay? So take a peek at this. You know, essentially it looks just like your regular mashed potatoes. Put a little butter in there, a little pepper, and you'd be good to go with some mashed potatoes. So that's kind of step 1. And we'll let this cool, put it in another pot, put it in the fridge, and tomorrow morning, we will continue making the dough. Okay? There we go. All right, I just want to clarify one thing. I was saying if it was mashed potatoes, you put butter and pepper on it. Don't do that for lefse. That is just if we were doing something different. So after you've put it into a pot to get ready to put it in the fridge, first we're going to let it cool off a little bit. It's still quite hot right now. That's what it's going to look like. It's going to essentially look like mashed potatoes before we continue making the dough tomorrow. So we need to let this cool off, and we will start that process tomorrow. All right, welcome to day 2. So our lefse dough has been sitting in the pots covered overnight. We'll get to that in a second. But I want to kind of go through the machinery, tools, and things you're going to need. First, you're going to need a pastry board. So one of you out there that may be watching this video may have borrowed my pastry board. And if you have, please return it. Jake had the great idea of a 45-pound weight. So we have that as a substitute with this pastry cloth over the top of that. That's essential for rolling out the dough. Other things we're going to be using here today, I use 2 grills. These are Heritage grills, Lefse grills. You could get those on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. We're going to use rolling pin covers that go over. I find that the kind of rolling pins with the edges on it, I don't know exactly what they call it, works a little bit better than a flat rolling pin. So then you just put the sleeve on that, and we'll show you that as we go along. You're going to need your Lefse turning sticks. I use one to get off where I roll the Lefse onto the first grill, and then who's ever helping me, Jake will be helping me today, we'll use the other stick to flip it across. Generally, you could go in where this little notch is if you want. Always go with the curved side up. You could get under that Lefse, pick it up, turn it over if you're using just one grill, or flip it over to the next one if you're using 2. So Lefse stick as well. I'll put links in the description for all this stuff. Always make sure your flour is fresh. This is a lot of hard work. You don't want to use old flour. So I always buy a fresh bag each year when we're doing Lefse. And I'm going to switch this up. Carol Marie is gluten-free, so a quarter of what I'm doing today is going to be gluten-free to make it so she could actually enjoy it as well. So we have that. All right, so we will be back in a moment. Another thing I should probably show you over here is you'll use these towels. I use some old laundry sheets. I use these exclusively for Lefse. After we're done, we wash them. But you just cover up the Lefse as it cools. You don't want it to dry out and get crusty. So I'll show you how that works as we go along too. Okay, and we'll be back in a moment. Okay, so the first thing you want to do before you start making the dough is you want to make sure you get all the moisture out of there. So what I do is I just kind of take the pot. This was sitting overnight, and usually there'll be some condensation on the bottom. So be careful, you don't want to lose all your hard work. But just kind of shake it, see if any water comes out of there. Because too much moisture in your dough will wreck it. All right, so we're done with that. I'm going to bring it over here. All right, so if you have any moisture left kind of sitting on top, I have a little bit, so I'm just going to dab that off. And we're ready to roll with that. So, so this first batch I'm going to split in half. Half is going to be for gluten-free, and the other half is going to be for regular. we're going to skip this step and we're going to jump the video jump to when I do the full normal batch. So you could just see how that's done, so you don't have to worry about, you know, splitting measurements. Okay, so we'll be back once we get to that level. All right, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to make the dough. Quick shout out to the beautiful lady behind Jacob here. You want to pan over to the hot blonde? Oh yeah, Jay-Z. She's cute. All right, so you can kind of see the end product. What you're kind of going for is, you know, 1 3/4, 2 inch diameter, smooth, round Lefse dough ball. Okay, you see some little chunks of potato in there. Those were things that didn't mash perfect. That's okay. Don't worry about that. Sometimes you get that. It's usually you're able to roll that out. Let's hope for that. So we'll see how this goes. So what you do is you take your dough from the night before that you made, and we're going to add 3 cups of all-purpose flour. All right, and it's very important that you do keep that to an even 3 cups. Too little and your dough is going to be too wet, too much, and it will be too dry. Both are not ideal. So I kind of start off, I'll do like 1.5 in there. Okay. And then we'll finish up. We'll get more in there in a bit. Okay, so just use your hands. The dough is going to be really cold because it's been sitting in the fridge overnight. My grandma, when she lived on the farm, she used to put this in the cellar or put it out on the porch because they didn't have the fridge. So nice little fact for you, a little heritage. You know, this is my grandma's recipe. I'm sure there's different recipes out there. I've never tried a different recipe because, you know, my family pretty much likes this, so we stick with this one. Grandma taught my dad, and my dad taught me, and I'm trying to pass that on to some other people in the family. So this is the rest of that 2nd cup, and while I kind of have a free hand, because obviously I don't want to use this crazy mitten, I'm going to get that 3rd cup ready. All right. That's ready to go when I need it. Now your kitchen will get pretty messy while you do this. There'll be flour all over the floor. You'll be traipsing it around. Just let the dog come in here and look up the floor. Everything will be okay. Okay, so let's put that 3rd cup in there. Careful, I don't want to get that flour on the cutting board, or the rolling board rather, because the first batch is going to be gluten-free. So this is not a gluten-free certified kitchen, so call the cops. We'll see how that gluten-free rolls out. Sometimes with the gluten-free flour, even though it's like a 1-to-1, it could be a little bit drier than a regular flour, so you got to be careful with that. So really we're getting to the point where most of the leftover flour is at the very bottom, and you just got to try to stick it into the dough. Oh, there goes a nice piece. Somebody's not going to get a piece of Lefse because that one fell on the floor. All right, so we are pretty much good with that. Kind of try to put it into one big piece. And next we will roll that. Okay. Okay, so we've made our dough, and what we want to do is start or continue. I made these in advance to make these Lefse dough balls about 1 3/4 to 2 inches across. So for a 5-pound batch, you're going to have roughly about 25, 26 of them. And once you roll them out, what we do is we cut them in half. So that gives you 50 plus servings. So depending on how many people you're going to have at your house or whatever, 50 plus for 5 pounds. If that's not going to be enough, you're going to want to do a double batch or whatever. Scale to your liking. So here we go. I'll just show you. We'll make a couple of these and then kind of move on to the next step. You just want to take hand size of that, and you're just going to roll that. You want to get it to the point where it's nice and smooth. There's no big major cracks on it, because if there's major cracks, once you start to roll that out, the Lefse can break apart. So fairly simple. Anybody could do this. Go ahead and do another one. And sometimes they're going to vary a little bit in size. Don't worry about that. As long as you get pretty close to that target size that I told you, you'll be just fine. All right. See, that one maybe is a little bit bigger than some of the other ones. Everything will be okay. Okay, this is the last one I'll show you rolling, and then I'll go ahead and do the rest of these off camera. Again, look at the size of my palm. There. Okay. So next step will come back as we'll actually be rolling these out. So stay tuned. Okay, we are back. I am going to get our pastry board good to go. I'm inserting this part of the video a couple weeks after we did the last one. Is getting ready for Christmas. Last one was getting ready for Thanksgiving, and missed a couple recording segments, so I wanted to go ahead and redo this part. So when you start, you want to make sure you get your cloth on your rolling pin, and you want to get that rolling pin nice and covered with flour. Sorry for the dishwasher in the background there. So get that good to go, and then you're going to want to make sure you work in the flour into your pastry board. I put a little bit on after each Lefse ball that I roll out, because you don't want this to get sticky or too dry. Okay, so that's about the consistency you're looking for. Now I take out anywhere from 5 to 7 Lefse balls from the fridge. The rest I leave in there so they stay cool throughout the process. So you're going to take one. You can see the consistency of it, maybe about 2 inch in diameter. I'm going to go ahead. You roll that in a little bit of flour. This is regular flour, regular wheat flour we're using now. Kind of flatten it out, a small silver dollar. And we're going to get started on rolling that out. So, don't have my filming assistant with me today. Jake is getting over a cold, so we figured we'd keep him away from the food. I want to spread that out, flip it over, and use that Lefse turning stick and just gently go back and forth. You want to kind of get out to kind of close to that 14-inch mark, which you can see on my pastry board is that outer red rim. It's kind of your target. Sometimes they're going to be a little bit bigger, sometimes they're going to be a little smaller. It really depends on the size Lefse ball that you're going to roll. So nothing's perfect, but you can kind of see that consistency gets kind of thin. You could even see through it down to the pastry board lettering. Gonna go under that, pick that up, take it over to my Lefse grill, that is at 500 degrees, and get that started. Now I use 2 grills because I'm doing 15 pounds of Lefse, which is equivalent to we cut the pieces in half, so 25, 50, 150 pieces. We have a large family, so that's kind of how we roll. So it's a kind of a all-day effort for me. So again, when you get started with that next one, you want to coat that. Again, pick up that Lefse ball, roll it in the flour one last time. We're going to get that back down to that silver dollar size and go ahead and start that rolling process. I'll do this one more time so you can see, and then we will move on from there. Certainly you can rewind the video if you want to see it again, see the steps, but I'm confident this isn't rocket science. You could all figure it out and hopefully enjoy the process and enjoy your results. Okay. Again, getting out near that 14-inch mark, and curved end down on that stick, and we will lay that out. Okay, that is that, and we will go ahead and move on to that next step. Thank you. Okay, just a little bit of progress here. You can see we've got the 2 grills going, and those are cooking just fine. And over here we've got some of our Lefse that's cooling off. And then what I do is I cut them in half and fold them. Jake here is flipping the Lefse from one grill to the next. And then you can see him move one piece to the other. Down to our last couple of pieces, and in between each roll you can see that he smooths over the roller and then gets rolling on the dough. All right. One thing to note is as you do cook these, you will get a buildup of, you can see some residue of flour or whatever. Very carefully, what I do is I just use a wadded up paper towel, and after you empty it off, you could rub that off. But of course, proceed with caution. These are at 500 degrees. You don't want to be careless and burn yourself. So please be careful, and of course, proceed at your own risk when you're dealing with these things. So this one is about ready. So again, round tip up. You just get under that and move it over. And I'll show you what I mean when I mean by cleaning off the grill. You got that residue there, just very carefully just get that off. And you make sure you don't burn yourself. Okay? And Jake's gonna put one of our last pieces on the grill. So let's go ahead and Do that, buddy. Thank you, sir. All right. Okay, here's the final product. This afternoon, getting ready for Christmas with my family, I rolled out 15 pounds of Lefse. And as you can see, I have cut each piece in half and folded them and stacked them and letting them cool off. You want to let them fully cool off and cover them with a sheet like I have here. I just use old pillowcases. You could use a regular bed sheet or something like that. You don't want to use like a towel that might have a lot of lint that may come off it. Something like a sheet is better for that. And let them cool off. Once they're fully cooled, you could either put them in a Tupperware or you could put them in like a gallon size Ziploc bag. Put them in the refrigerator if you're going to be having them in the next couple of days, or freeze them. What I tend to do if I want them throughout the year, I will put them in quart-sized bags. I'll put, let's say I have a family of 4, each person's going to eat 2 at a meal. I'll put 8 of them into a quart-sized bag, put that in the freezer, and then when I'm ready to have that meal that we want to have that with, we take that out, defrost them for about 20 to 30 seconds, and they're ready to go. So that's a good way to have it throughout the year without going through the grind of doing the entire recipe. So try to do that when you're doing for a big event. Make some extra for yourself because you worked hard and you deserve it. Again, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out or drop comments in the section below. Also, I am leaving links below with equipment that you can use for the preparation and making of your lefse. Thanks again for watching and hope you have a great day and hope this works out for you, this video. Take care.